Hey fans, what up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Yud Gimel, Daf 13 of Masechta Sukkah. Yeah, interesting. I'm noticing this thing recently where I think when I don't sleep enough, so then I wouldn't say I'm hallucinating, but kind of everything's kind of wavy, let's say. Yeah, it's it's funny. When I look around, there's waves. It's pretty interesting, I guess. Yeah, kind of wavy. All right, very nice. Anyways, so what are we talking about? Daf Yud Gimel of Masechta Sukkah. So, friends, Daf Yud Gimel of Masechta Sukkah talks about all sorts of different schach that you can use. Now, my personal recommendation is just use what everybody else uses. I mean, I'm all for doing your own thing, but Lemaisa, just use the schach that everybody else uses. If it's sort of accepted as schach, just go for it. However, let's start with Daf Yud Beis, Amud Beis. Wow, okay, the whole wavy thing is kind of wavy. So let's see, who's new? Okay, Amr Yehuda. Okay. Fine. So in Daf Yud Beis Amud Beis, 3 lines from the bottom, Amr of Yehuda. So says Rav Yehuda, Hanishushe Visha. I seriously can't see. Okay. So Hanishushe Vishavtzere. So these Shushe and Shavtzere, which are ferns and Artemisia. Okay. All right. Lemaise. Rabbi Avram listens to Babylon Talmud, so we've been grooving together recently, and sometimes I prepared the Daf Yomi in the groove. So I wrote into the chat over there when I was grooving with Avram that there's a lot of Aramaic words here that I have to translate, including ferns and Artemisia, and that I don't even know what that is in English. But all right. Maybe Reb Dennis can help us. But Amr of Yehuda, so says Rav Yehuda that Hani Shushe V'Shavtzere, these ferns and Artemisia, Mesakrin Behu, you can use them for schach. Okay, Mazel Tov. Abaye, Amr says Abaye, B'Shushe Mesakrin, you can use the ferns, B'Shavtzere Lo Mesakrin, but you can't use the Artemisia. My time, how come? Kevon Desai Rechayu, Shavik Luhu Vinafik. Well, because since the Artemisia smell shver, modna, schlecht, bad, so then because they smell bad, you're gonna just bounce and not sit in the sukkah. We want you to sit in the sukkah, so don't use bad smelling schach. You know what I think it is, by the way? I think I just haven't had enough coffee. I think it's probably what it is. If I drink enough coffee, then my vision comes back. That's probably what it is. Okay. Omer of Chanan Bar, is it Rava or Rabba? Maybe I should use a bigger Gemara. But I wrote all the translations in the smaller Gemara. Alright, let's use a smaller one, and I'm going to stop bothering you with my wavy vision. Okay, I'm going to make this work. Fine. So if your schach smells bad, then you're going to leave your sukkah. Amr of Chanan Bar Rava, Hani Hizme Vehege, the brambles and thorn bushes, Misakhin Behu, you can use them for schach. Abaye Omer says Abaye behizme misakchinon. We can use brambles behege lo misakchinon, but we don't use thorn bushes. My timer. How come? Kevin de Nasre tarfayu shavikle vinafik says Abaye. Well, thorn bushes, they can parts of the thorn bush could fall down on you, and you don't want thorn bushes falling on you, so you're just not going to sit in the sukkah, and obviously we don't want that, so avoid the thorn bushes. Amr Rav Gidol Rav says Rav Gidol, the name Rav, Hai Apkusa the Dikla Misakrin Behu, the offshoots. This is taka interesting. Says Rav Gidol, the name of Rav, that the offshoots of palm branches, Misakrin Behu, you may use for schach. Afagav the agide eged b'dei shemaim lo shmei eged. Even though they're bundling by God is not called bundling. Cheva, what does this mean? It means that we had learned in our Mishnah that you're not allowed to use bundles of wood and things like that for schach. Now, it says of Gidon Marab that if you use a palm tree, At the bottom of it, there could be like offshoots, right? I live in Eretz Yisrael. We have palm trees. I'm sure some of the Babylon Talmud Chevra who lives in California and other places like that. Maybe even Jordan in Florida, they also have palm trees, right? Anyways, there's places with palm trees, and on the palm trees there are like shoots at the bottom of it. So now it says that Rav Gidol Marav that if you take like a palm tree and you take like the stump of it and there's shoots coming off of it, so you can kind of, in a sense, argue that it's like a bundle, essentially. You got a few different branches coming from the same source. So you might think, well, this maybe is like a bundle, and we said in our mission that you're not allowed to use bundles, so maybe you shouldn't be allowed to use these palm trees essentially with like offshoots. But says Rav Gidol that you actually may use them. So let's read that again. Rav Gidol Marav Hai afkusa de dikla, these like offshoots of palm trees, misakrimbu, you're allowed to use them for schach. Even though you're not allowed to use bundles, you're allowed to use these. Afagavda agide, even though it's like they're like a bundle, because eged b'deshmaim lo shmei eged. A bundle by God is not called a bundle. Meaning, the bundle that we're saying you're not allowed to use is if you take a bundle of straw, a whole bunch of straw, and you tie them together into a bundle. That is the kind of thing that you're not allowed to use. Because we're worried you're going to come home, you're going to just put them out to dry, whatever, it's part of your whole kind of farming process. But if it just grows that way, then we're not, then that whole farming process of coming home and drying out is like not like a thing, and therefore, you would be allowed to use these, palm tree offshoots. Eged, where, lo shmei eged, fine. Avagav de hadar agid lihu, eged b'chad lo shmei eged. Now, even if you like take a rope and tie and like wrap it all in a rope, that also doesn't make any difference because it's considered like one unit. And, in order for it to be considered bundling together, it would have to be multiple units, right? So if I take a whole bunch of straw and I tie them all together to make a bundle of straw, that's considered bundling. But to take like, one tree with its offshoots, which we're really just considering to be like one unit, and then you tie a rope around it, it doesn't matter, that's not going to make any difference. Amr of Chizda, Amr of Vina, Barshila, Hani Dokre Dekane. These stacks, is that what I said? Stacks, I guess. These stacks of cane. No, stalks, not stacks, stalks. These stalks of cane, Misakrin Behu. Okay. So it says of Chizda, in the name of Ravina Barshila, that Hani Dokre Dekane, these stalks of cane, you're allowed to use for schach. Sounds good to me. Again, Chaver, just use like the bamboo or whatever. Oh, maybe this is talk of the bamboo. Whatever it is, whatever you see your neighbor using for schach, just use that. Okay, weiter. Now again, since these are kind of like shoots and stuff, and there's like, it looks like there's like a whole bunch of them and like branching off in different ways, since they're bundled together by God, so it's not considered like a non-usable bundle. It's a usable bundle. And even if you then tie them up in a rope, again, iged bichad lo shmei eged, kind of just wrapping a rope around something that's already considered like one unit doesn't make it into a bundle. You have to take disparate things and bundle them together in order for it to be considered a bundle that you're not allowed to use. What are these things? Cane stalks and tapered poles. Okay. Misakrin boen, you're allowed to use them. Konim pshita, obviously you're allowed to use these cane stalks. Ema konim shel dokronin, misakrin boen. Okay. So what I'll say is like these, stalks of tapered poles you're allowed to use, I guess, even though, I don't know, they're different than just like regular canes. Like, they come out of like one source, like a whole, they kind of shoot off, but nonetheless, you're still allowed to use them for the same reasons, because like, eged b'deshmaim lo shmei eged. V'amar Rav Chizda Amar Ravina Barshila Hani Merarisa de Agma. Interesting. Says Rav Chizda, in the name of Ravina Barshila, that the Merarisa de Agma, so meaning, of course on Pesach, when it comes to Mar, we use Mar. Let me ask you a question. What about swamp mar? Can I use swamp mar? So, says Rav Chizda, the name of Ravina Barshila, that Hani Marisa de Agma, swamp mar, You are allowed to use them for maror on Pesach. So you can use regular maror, which of course we learn Masechet Pesachim, we generally assume to be is romaine lettuce. But you can also use swamp maror. Okay? Meisvei, we have a kasha, Azov. Then when it comes to Azov, now there's a few things in the Torah that require Azov, which is hyssop. Who can tell me what these things are? Let's see if I can tell you. By Mitzorah, right? As part of the purification process of Mitzorah, we take like hyssop and we dip it, I think it's like bird's blood or whatever. Also by the Para Aduma, we use hyssop to like sprinkle the mechatas. Also by the blood of the Korban Pesach in Mitzrayim, there was hyssop to put it on the doorposts. I don't know, what's the last one? I can't remember. We said Mitzorah, we said Para Aduma, we said Pesach Mitzrayim, and I don't know. One more. Anyway, so when we have these things that you need to use Azov for, so then where am I? So Meisvei. So Azov, all these things you need to use Azov. Velo Azov Yavan, not Greek Azov. Velo Azov Kochali, not blue Azov. Velo Azov Midbari, not desert Azov. Velo Azov Romi, and not Roman Azov. Velo Azov Sheeshlo Shem Livoy. Not any kind of Azov that has some kind of descriptor. Kilu, when we say that you got to use Azov, just use plain old Azov. No this type of Azov or that type of Azov. And therefore, the kasha is, we'll say that just like by Azov, by hyssop, we just use plain old hyssop, not any kind of hyssop, like blue hyssop or Egyptian or Roman hyssop. So we want to say that the same thing applies to mar. The Torah says use mar, don't use swamp mar. So Amar Abaye, Kol Shenishtina Shmo Kodem Matan Torah. So it says Abaye, well, in order for determining this, it depends. If already prior to the giving of the Torah, these other variants existed, Uvasator Vikpida Alav, and the Torah said, look, I'm aware of these variants, I'm not interested in those variants, I just want the plain one, well then Biyadua Sheyeshlo Shem Livui. So then, clearly they have these other variants already. And the Torah says, look, I'm not interested in those variants. I want plain old hyssop. So therefore, when it came to hyssop, blue hyssop, desert hyssop, these things already existed. These variants existed prior to Matan Torah. And the Torah made clear, look, I don't want those. I want regular old Azov. So that's why only plain Azov works, none of the others. However, Vehane, when it comes to maror, lo nishtana shmayu kodem Matan Torah klal. But when it comes to maror, there were no other variants of maror prior to Matan Torah. Those variants only came out afterwards, and therefore at the time of Matan Torah there was maror. So Torah says use maror. Now it could also include swamp maror or whatever. Swamp maror didn't exist at the time. So by when the Torah says to use maror, it's not to exclude swamp maror. Swamp maror wasn't a thing at the time. But you are allowed to use swamp maror if you want. Rava Amar says, Rava, Hani Mirisa Stoma Shmayu. Says Rava, the fact of the matter is that swamp maror is actually just regular old maror. Bahai Dukari Lehu Miri Rasa da Agma Mishum de Ishtikach Ba'agma. Says Rava, look, swamp maror is really just regular maror. And the only reason why we call it swamp maror is because it grows near the swamp, but it's lemaisa, it's just regular old maror. That's why you're allowed to use it. Sounds fun. Omer of Chizde, Iged Bechad Loshmei Eged. Okay, so it says of Chizde, going back on what we had said earlier, that bundling one thing together isn't considered a bundle. Eged Shalosh Shmei Eged. Now, 3 things is certainly considered a bundle. You take, 3, stalks of straw or something, and you tie them together. No doubt in the world, that is a bundle. Shnayim, when it comes to 2, if you take 2 inyanim and you bundle them together, machlokas Reb Yossi v'Rabbanan. So that is taka machlokas between Rebbe and the Rabbanan. The Tanan, as we learn in the Mishnah, mitzvahs Azov, shlosha kalochim uvoin shlosha givolim. Sounds fun. That the mitzvah of hyssop, you need to have 3 sprigs, and those sprigs need to each have at least one stem. Okay, sounds fun. So all right. So you have 3 sprigs. Each sprig has a stem. So l'maisa you have 3 stems according to the Tanakama. Rabbi Yossi Omer says, Rabbi Yossi, mitzvahs Ezov shlosha give olin, that the mitzvah of Ezov is 3. What do we say? Give olin more stems. V'shiyar of shnaim. Now, if one of them gets lost, so then you could still be yotzei with 2. So you have to start off with 3 stems, and if something happens to one of them, as long as you have 2 left over, it's acceptable. V'gardumov kolshu. And it stumps, as long as there's like a stump there of the stem, so then it's like still considered okay and acceptable as if it's there. All right, sounds very awesome. So kosaga daitin, and now it's entering our mind to say midishiyar of shnaim tchilasuna mishnaim. So now what we want to say is that according to Rabbi Yossi, when he says that if you start off with 3 of these stems, and if you're left over with 2 of them, it still works. So we want to say that me'ikar adin also you could start off with 2 stems according to Rabbi Yossi by diktani shlosha the mitzvah. And when he says that you should start off with 3, it's what's it called? Yeah, l'chatchila you should start off with 3, but technically if you start off with 2, it would also work. So we want to say that the rabbis who say that when it comes to Ezov, you're supposed to have 3 of these like stems. So according to the rabbis, 3 is considered a bundle, 2 isn't considered a bundle. Therefore, you have to have 3. According to Rabbi Yossi, who says that you should start with 3, but l'maisa, if one gets lost and you're left with 2, it works. So we'll say that according to him, 2 is already considered a bundle, right? Because of course by Ezov you need agudas Ezov, a bundle of Ezov. So let's say according to the rabbis, according to the Tanakama, 3 is a bundle, 2 is not a bundle. According to Rabbi Yossi, even 2 could be considered a bundle. With Rabbi Yossi, shlosha the mitzvah, the abanon shlosha la'akev, which means that therefore, if Rabbi Yossi is saying that ideally you should have 3, but all you really need is 2, the rabbis must be saying that you have to have 3, 2 doesn't work. But 1 second, we learn in the Brisa. Rabbi Yossi Omer says, Rabbi Yossi, Ezov tchilaso shnaim, that Ezov, you have to start with 2. V'shiyar of echad pasol. You hear that? That according to Rabbi Yossi, when it comes to Ezov, if you start with 2 and you're only left with 1, it's pasol. It's only kosher if you start with 3 and then are left with 2, right? Meaning, according to Rabbi Yossi, we want to say according to Rabbi Yossi, right? He says that if you start out with 3 and you're left with 2, so it's okay. So we wanted to assume that it must mean that technically speaking, according to Rabbi Yossi, even if you start out with 2, it's okay. And he says that 2 could be considered a bundle. However, we have a Brisa here where he's saying, no, if you start out with 2, it doesn't work. You have to start out with 3. And then if you're left with 2, then say, but you have to start out with 3. So it must be that really according to Rabbi Yossi, 3 is what's considered the bundle. 2 isn't considered a bundle because he says if you start out with 2, it doesn't work. So rather Epoch. So rather I'll switch it around. The Rabbi Yossi shlosha la'akev. According to Rabbi Yossi, you have to have 3. L'rabbanan shlosha l'mitzvah. And according to the rabbis, you should really have 3. And if you don't have 3, beseder. But when the rabbis say in the first brisa that when it comes to Ezov you have to have 3, that means you should have 3. But if all you have is 2, then that works as well. So we just switched it around to say that according to the rabbis, actually 2 could be considered a bundle, and according to Rabbi Yossi, 2 is not considered a bundle. You have to have 3. V'atanya we tackle in the Brisa Ezov tchilaso shnaim v'shiyar of echad kosher. Right, we learn in the Brisa that when it comes to Ezov, if you start off with, right, according to Tanakama, if you start off with 2 and you're left over with 1, it's taka kosher. It's only possible if it starts off as 1 stalk and ends with, and you have 1 stalk left over. What do you mean if there's 1 left over, it's possible? We just said the first part of the Brisa that if you start off with 2 and have 1 left over, then it's taka kosher. All right, 1 second. Technical difficulties. I have to learn how to turn a page. Okay. Ela ema ajite tchilaso kishiarav echad. No, what it means is that, no, it's only possible if you start off with 1, which is the same as if you kind of started with 2 and left over with 1. Meaning if what you start off with is what you're really technically only supposed to remain with, which is 1, because if you start with 2 and 1 is left over, you lose 1, you're left over with 1, we say it's kosher. So, but if you would start off with just 1, it would be possible. Alright? Sounds good to me. Dude, so what the heck did we just say? What the heck we just said is that according to the rabbis, a bundle could already be considered, eged is already with 2. According to Rabbi Yossi, eged would require 3 stalks. Darish Meremar taught, Hani Isuryasa Desura. Okay, these like bundles of a cane and branches and stuff and surah. Misakrimbu, you can use it for schach. Afagab de agadon, even though they are bundled together, the minyana ba'almahu the agadon, they're only bundled together for counting. That's actually super interesting, right? Meaning, a lot of people, lemaise, use that schach that you roll out, right? It's like kind of connected. It's not individual like pieces of bamboo or something. It's like schach that you roll out. It's like a mat, which is super interesting, right? So isn't that considered a bundle? So it sounds like not necessarily. Kilo, a bundle that we're saying is a problem, Meremar is saying, that the bundle that we're saying is a problem, is a bundle that you take home from the field. That's what you're not allowed to use. But we're saying that these bundles that they would sell in Surah, that had nothing to do with like bundling to come home from the field and dry out and stuff like that. It was a way for them to be able to count, Look, 10 shoots, 10, bamboo sticks or whatever for $1, whatever it is. So it's just a way for them to be able to count them up and sell them properly, but it has nothing to do with like, what's it called? Gzeras, what do we call it yesterday? The Gzeras, oh gosh, why am I forgetting? Gzeras Otzer. Nothing to do with that. It's just a way to sell them. So that was considered, to count them, that was considered acceptable. Okay. Amr Abba, says Abba ani tzrife de orbane. These sort of huts made out of willow branches. Kim de shehutra roshe ma'adonim shaloyen ksherim. Once you kind of undo their sort of like bundle, so then it's kosher. V'agidi mitatoi, but they're still bundled from the bottom. Amr papa d'sharilu, that you also undo the bottom as well. Okay. So what's this talking about? So it's talking about that there was basically like, you can use like willow branches, like big willow branches, and then you tie them at the top and you tie them at the bottom, and then you can kind of like go inside of it, and it becomes like almost like a hut of sorts, I guess. So what we're saying is, let's read it again. Amr Abba says, Rav Abba, Hanitzrife du Urbani. So these huts of willow branches, Kevin Shehutra Roshe Ma'adonim Sheloen, once you kind of undo the top connection at the top, ksherin, you can now use them for schach. But aren't they still connected from the bottom? So Amr Papa d'sharilu. So Papa says, well, it's talking about where you undid the knot at the bottom. So even though they're still kind of like, interspersed and braided and connected to some extent, but they are no longer tied, and that's considered okay. Rafuna B'Rei Rav Yeshua, Afilu Tema Delo Sharilu, says Rafuna B'Rei Rav Yeshua, you can actually even argue that you didn't even untie them at all at the bottom. Kevin the Eged Sheinu Osui Litatalo Lo Shma Eged. Since any bundle that isn't, so that in order to like carry it, it's not considered a bundle. All right, and therefore you can even use it even if you didn't undo the bottom tie. Amr Papa says, Papa. Amr Abba, Amr Shmuel, Yirakas Shamu Chacham Asur Adam Yotze Boini De Chavas BePesach. So it says Rav Abba in the name of Shmuel that the vegetables Shamu Chachamim, I don't know what the heck I said. Yirakas Shamu Chacham, the vegetables that the rabbi said Adam Yotze Boini De Chavas BePesach, that a fellow is able to be Yotze's obligation of Maror on Pesach. so they could bring tumah, ve'ein chotzitzin b'fnei tumah, but they don't make a chatzitza for tumah. All right, exciting times. What does this mean? So let's just say, like, I don't know, romaine lettuce, I guess. So remember we talked about the other day, what was like yesterday or something? Or maybe the day before, I can't remember anymore. That maybe es tumah and chotzetz from tumah, right? So we said that in order for something, maybe it was a few days ago already, I think it was, right? It was talking about sort of the minimum amount of space in order for it to be considered a sukkah on top of a sukkah. Anyways, so we had talked about maybe es tumah, which is that when it has to do with making an ohel for tumah. So if we said, like, if you have a kazayis min ames, which is mitami ba'oel, and then on top of it is like some kind of a board, let's say, and then you have, let's say, food on the other end. So on one end of this board you have kazayis min ames, then on the other end of the board you have food. So it's all considered under the same board. So it's like all in the same ohel. So we had said as long as the board is a tefach by a tefach, and there's a distance of a tefach from the ground to the board, so then the food will become tameh on account of being in the same ohel as the kazayis min ames. We're saying though that any vegetable that you can use for maror on Pesach, so it's like leaf, so it's maybe a satuma, that if you kind of like, if it's on top of a kazayis min ames as well as like some food, so as long as it's an amma by an amma, so then the food will become tameh, but it doesn't, enu chotzitz, right? What does it say? Ve'ein chotzitzin b'fnei tumah, but it doesn't make a chatzitza, right? So we had said that if you have a kazayis min ames, and then there's like a tefach of space, and then you have something on top of it, and then you put, let's say, food on top of that, I don't know, let's say plank of wood or something like that. So that food does not become tameh because there, as long as there's a tefach of space, so then whatever you put on top of it is going to be a chatzitza. It's gonna stop the tumah from like going all the way up, right? Because when you have tumah, if you have like a kazayis min ames, so then the tumah goes all the way up, right? And if you step over it or something like that, you're going to be making an oil on top of the tumah, and you're going to become tameh. However, if there's like why can't I think straight? What's the word I'm thinking of? Some kind of like chatzitza, some kind of something that you're going to put on top of it. I don't know. Take like some wood and you put it on top of the kazayis min ames. So then, if you put something on top of that wood, that thing that you put on top of it, so let's say it's some food, will not become tameh because there's a chatzitza. However, if that wasn't like wood, it was like romaine lettuce or something, so then the tumah would continue to go up and would make would make something tameh. So therefore, what we're saying is that if these vegetables that you can use for maror on Pesach, so they are maybe as a tumah, right? If they are sort of on top, if the leaf is like on one side of it is kazayis min ames, and then on the other side is food, so then the food will be tameh. But if you have kazayis min ames, and then a tefach of space, and then some of this like romaine lettuce or some kind of leaf on top of it, and then on top of that you have food, the tumah would still make the leaf, like the food that's on top of that tameh. Sounds fun, right? Okay. Ufasil. Okay, so fine, and it's pasul. What? B'sukkah. Mishum avir, and it makes like schach for sukkah pasul because of space. Oh my goodness gracious, dude! This is absolutely insane. So much density packed into this stuff. So we're saying that this. Okay, so the same. I like can't even think straight. The same vegetable stuff. So like freaking romaine lettuce, you know what I mean? So we're saying that when it comes to, if you use like romaine lettuce, which might be acceptable for maror on Pesach, but if you say, you know what, I'm going to use romaine lettuce for like sukkah, for schach, it doesn't work. And it's as if it doesn't exist at all. Now, We had said that when it comes to, when it comes to like pasul schach, right? So if I use schach that I'm not allowed to use for, I don't know, maybe I use like hide. Maybe I use like hide, which is can become tummy, right? It's oh my, dude, I seriously can't think straight. What is going on over here? Well, what's that thing? It becomes tummy? Something tuma, it becomes tame, whatever. Hide becomes tame. So if you like use 4 tfachim of something that you're not allowed to use for schach, so then it is a problem. Now, however, if it's 3 tfachim, where it's like lavud, so then it's going to be a problem even at 3 tfachim. So if there's like 3 tfachim or more of just space, of nothing there, so then that's already a problem because you can no longer say lavud and there's just space there. However, if you have like some that you're not allowed to use for schach, such as like hide or something like that, so then it's 4 tfachim when it becomes an issue. Now what we're saying is that these vegetables that you're not allowed to use for, these vegetables that you are allowed to use for maror, however, you're not allowed to use them for schach. And if you do use them for schach, it's not as if it's like pasul schach, as if it was like hide or something. It's as if it doesn't even exist at all. It's as if it was just space. The difference being that hide becomes a problem at 4 tfachim. Space becomes a problem at 3 tfachim. Oh my gosh, so much density over here. So now I have to find where I am again. So fine. Ufosel besukkah mishum ovir. So this stuff that you can use for maror on Pesach, if you decide that you're going to put it on top of your sukkah, it's just going to be as if it doesn't exist. It's going to be as if it's just space. And therefore it's going to be pasul. It's going to be an issue once already it's 3 tfachim because you don't have lavud anymore. Ooh. My time, how come? Kevan dil chiyavsha pasche nafshe. What? Okay. My time, Kevan dil chiyavshe pasche nafshe. What does that even mean? Kamay dilla. Oh my gosh. Okay, Kevan, where am I? Kevan dilichiyavshe, since that when they dry out, right, this like mar stuff, so parche v'nafle, they just dry out and fall down. So in command deleis udami, it's as if they like don't exist at all, and therefore it's just going to be like considered like space. All right. V'amar Reb Abba, Amar Reb Huna, habotzer legas ein lo yados. Oh my gosh, this is getting exciting. Okay, somebody who harvests like grapes in order to use them for like wine, to like use them to make wine. So ein lo yados. So then it doesn't have yados. What are yados? Yados are handles. What are handles? It's like uksin. So basically, if you take like a grape, so a grape also has like a handle to it, right? So you can take like a grape and then there's like how you can hold the handle, like a little bit of like a stem, okay? So that stem that you can hold a handle by is called a yad. It's called like a handle. So now what we're saying is that if you harvest grapes in order to use them to make wine, well, the thing is, all you want really is the wine. You're not interested in the handles because the handles are just like a distraction. They don't help. They like take away from they can like absorb some of the juice of the wine. We don't want it, and therefore we say that because you're not interested in it, it doesn't matter, and therefore any hands, any yados that there are basically irrelevant. Okay. Rav Menashe bar Gada Amar Rav Huna kotzer l'sukkah ein lo yados, that a fellow who harvests grapes for in order to put for a sukkah, right? So let's say you just harvest a bunch of like grapes and stuff, or even just like grain or something like that, and you want to use that for your sukkah. So now you have this grain, right? So you harvest this like stalk, and in the stalk there's like so you have like the stalk part, which is like the long part, just like the stalky kind of part of the grain, and then you have like the actual like wheat kind of part of the grain, which is like grainy kind of the grain, and then there's also like the yados, which is like the part of the grain that like you can hold the like grainy part for. So you have the grain, then you have the part that you can like hold the grain by, and then there's also the stalk, which is like the stalky part of the thing. So Ein Lo Yado, so says Rav Menashe Bar Gad in the name of Rav, that if you harvest like grain for schach, Ein Lo Yados, so the part that you hold the grain by doesn't have these yados things. My timer. So Manda Amar Kotzer Kol Shekain Botzer. So the Manda Amar who says that when you, so the Manda Amar who says that Kotzer, that harvesting you're not allowed to, right, it's not considered that the harvesting is not considered to be yados. So then certainly Botzer Delo nichale, delo nimtzai lechamri, right? So then certainly when it comes to the to using it for botzer, for, oh my God, what did we say botzer was again? Botzer is right, for the wine, because certainly you don't like the wine because it makes the wine worse. So mandamar botzer she'en lo yados. However, if you say that botzer, sure, because it's going to make the wine worse. Aval kotzer yeshlo yados lichano. But when it comes to mandamar botzer, so the mandamar who says that you use the wine, the yad, that it's not considered yados when it comes to using it for, oh my God, using it for wine, because it's going to make the wine into oh my God. Oh wow, my brain literally stopped working. Avokotzer, when it comes to harvesting, yeshlo yados, you might, okay. Chevra, we're picking up from here tomorrow. My brain officially stopped working. I feel terrible. I'll catch you tomorrow.